Welcome to your Inspirational Astrology Horoscope for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. I'm Astrologer Dave Palmer, the Leo King, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Well, thanks so much for being a part of High Vibe TV. Truly appreciate your membership. Of course, if you want all these daily videos and all the awesome weekly shows, you got to be on High Vibe TV. We just even had another app update, especially even featuring all of our community features. We're our own social media network where you get to post, follow other people and everything. Plus, you get all the content from me and everybody else that's on High Vibe. So definitely check it out, High Vibe TV, or download all of our new updated apps that are all down below, right below me. My Pluto Masterclass is just about finished, but that doesn't mean it's not finished for you if you haven't been in it yet. Pluto is a lot more than you probably even perceive, especially in your own chart, the world, and understanding Pluto in every facet, not only astrologically, but how it affects you in your chart, your mission, and more importantly, your contract and how deep that contract really goes. Past lives, you could never have even taken an astrology class and be brand new to it, and I throw the most advanced stuff at you in a way that you can comprehend and pull up yourself. It is 10 classes long. The final class is on Friday. It will be, well, each class is about 4 hours, so it's almost 40 hours of class. It is a lot, but it is everything that you've ever wanted about Pluto for your own chart. Make sure that you get it at highvibetvschool.com. It's only $125 forever, and you always have access to it in your library at High Vibe TV School. It's an awesome school that I founded 6-something years ago. I've done many different courses on there in many different schools. This one definitely has been a huge favorite. Thank you for everybody that's been in it. And of course, I've priced everything right now for the way that the world is. But let's talk about the world. So of course, I know I'm going to show charts like I always do, but we are in the new moon in Aries. We are at the 0 point here. And it is a 0 point new moon, Aries. But we are at quite, I was just about to say, quite the most auspicious of times, and maybe that's because all of us that love astrology have been looking at this week, some of us for decades, others for the last couple years. This is the week, though, of Pluto's ingress into Aquarius. It's overshadowing the new moon in many ways. It also is the weird eclipse cycle that we had in 2004, where we're going to have 2 new moons in Aries, right? We're going to have a solar eclipse that's going to happen in Aries as we are just going to have this new moon. So this is one of 2 new moons in Aries, but of course, the second one will be a solar eclipse at 29 Aries in 29 days, right? By April 19th. And it's the same solar eclipse we had on April 19th, 2004. So there's been a lot that's been going on with Pluto ready to ingress into Aquarius, and especially that I've been spending so much time doing my Pluto Masterclass for the last couple weeks. And literally, I mean, if you think about it, almost 40 hours of content in that school. It's been a lot. But it's been one of those things to where, number one, everything is changing in the astrology. I know it feels like it is super weird, but we have to remember that, and I'll show you in the charts here in a second, but we have to remember that this is a very, very unique and very rare moment. We are all on the internet together at the same time, consciously looking at Pluto as it ingresses into a new sign. That was not a thing back in 2008 when Pluto came into Capricorn. That was definitely not a thing back when Pluto was all the way back coming into Sagittarius. It wasn't a huge thing that people were talking about, especially on the internet with YouTubers and TikTokers and Instagram and how big the astrology community is. So there's a lot more awareness around it, but at the same time, we have to remember that so much has come to the 0 point of Aquarius. We had Jupiter, Saturn, that we all collectively, even the media covered it. That was on December 21st of 2020. We have so many things that connect to these very weird spots, which are the cusps. So everything being at cusps makes everything feel like all these new stories are beginning, and all these stories that we have been in, we are saying later to. And it does feel very on the highest extreme of, I guess you would say, fate. but that's also not easy. Also, the dispositors are changing a lot. And let's go into the charts so we can talk about that and show you that at the same time too. So what do I mean by that? Well, number one, we're in Aries, right? Mars is the ruler of Aries. Mars has been retrograde. Finally came out of its shadow, but this is a new moon in square to Mars. But this is Mars's house, right? So the sun's exalted here. We have a new moon at 0 degree of Aries, and Mars has been through a lot. I mean, if you go back to last summer, Mars came in to Gemini. We've had this Mars in Gemini for so long, and we have to remember that Mars is getting ready to leave Gemini. So this new moon is going to be quite different than the new moon solar eclipse that's going to be in a month from now, because Mars, the dispositor of that, will be in Cancer at its fall position. So this is also a new moon square Mars. And I think that what's really interesting is, remember that this is I was doing some masterclass stuff, and let me get back to it. There we go. But this Mars at 28 degrees here of Gemini is out of bounds. It's the only planet that is out of bounds, by the way. It is 25 north in declination. It keeps heading north. We've got the north node up in the northern part. And you got to remember that, yes, it might say it's slow, but Mars is out of its shadow. It's speeding up. It's getting back to normal operating speeds, but it's not fully there. So this is one of those energies where I know everybody's like, Aries, gung-ho, go for it, blah, blah, blah. But remember that, yes, all the planets are direct, but Mars is out of bounds. Mars is had the worst time. If you just look at Mars since Halloween, the day before on October 30th, when it went retrograde all the way until we came into the beginning of January, you have to remember that, I think, what was that, January 12th? This Mars has just been in square to Neptune, square to all these Pisces energies that we've been having. And of course, then it made its opposition to the sun when it was in Sag. It had so many hard aspects. So this Mars is beat up, and we are all beat up. This is also weird that Mars during this new moon is beginning its quincunx to Pluto. Now, what's weird is because Pluto is actually getting ready to come into Aquarius on the 23rd, just in 48 hours. Pluto's already at 2958. So it's like, oh gosh, we just got it. This Mars is trying to speed up to get in that quincunx, but both of these are the dispositor of the south node, right? The original ruler of Scorpio is Mars, and the modern ruler is Pluto. So there's a weirdness about this time, and the weirdness about the new energy, because it is about creation, not so much of that dark energy, right? Or that energy where we get stuck on our desires so much. We have to be looking at what we're creating. Venus, of course, being in Taurus, in its home sign, very powerful in its triplicity, especially at those first places. But, you know, we have to remember Venus is with the North Node, and we just saw that conjunction during this Sun Ingress chart into Aries. And then, of course, this is kind of a weird new moon because just the day prior, it was a balsamic moon in Pisces, and that crossed Saturn, and Saturn is new to being in Pisces. For us, it's been since, of course, the 94 through 96 transit. So we just felt that. And then Pluto and the moon met on Friday last, just I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago, right? When it literally crossed over Pluto for the last time in Capricorn, as it's been doing that for 15 years every month. And now we're about to come into this Aquarius energy. And if you notice, it's all this cuspy energy. The nodes are starting to complete their transits of being in Taurus and Scorpio. The new moon's at the literal 0 point, the most exact place, of course, where the equinoxes happen. If you look at that sun right there and that declination right there with the sun, boom. So, you know, this is a very important time because, of course, we like to look at it as an equalization, but it's the sun that is coming to its exaltation. And Mars, thank God, is actually in Gemini and not in Cancer for this moment. But we are going to have a solar eclipse that'll be a different story. So we have to remember all the planets are direct, and it is a time for us to understand what we have to do in our lives, where we have to go, how do we are going to define these new stories. And Jupiter, of course, is in Aries with this new moon, with Mercury and Chiron. So there's a lot of energy in Aries, and Mars is dispositing all this. And so these are big questions in our life about what action to take, and especially with the square from Mars to the sun, it makes it really weird. But not only that, Uranus, which is of course in Taurus at 16 degrees, is in exact semi-square to this new moon, and Mars at the same time too is beginning its semi-square to Uranus. So in this square, Uranus is sitting in between it. And it's with Venus, it's with the North Node, and this is bringing a lot of instability right now in places that we're trying to find stability. And wherever those places are, money, relationships, any place that are of high value to you right now, you can't give up and start freaking out. This can bring up a lot during this new moon process of a remembrance that Saturn's in Pisces. So this is a solar 12th, and Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and Saturn's with Neptune. The last time we saw these two together in Pisces was in 1523. So even though it feels so gung-ho and go ahead, there's still all these big planets that have to shift here, especially Pluto, number one, to come into a new dispositor. I mean, Saturn is the dispositor of Aquarius, but Uranus is the modern ruler, so we are shifting up energies here. And then, of course, when you think of Saturn, it's in Pisces. So the end of this Pluto Capricorn transit, before it's making its ingress into the new transit of Pluto and Aquarius, is with the new dispositor. Saturn's in Pisces, and it's with Neptune, and Neptune actually is it's the hierarchy of that, and you have to realize that this is making Neptune so powerful and strong. It might be a Venus in Taurus at the North Node. It might be a new moon that's on the 0 point. It's almost like a battle of the gods in many ways, like who's stronger than who. But nobody knows where they're going, and nobody knows how to take the next action or the next step. And I just want to remind people on this new moon, the big play of this new moon is about the environment that you're in that's the best for you in the longest term that you could ever think of. And that might be very difficult, you know, especially when it comes to the environment you're in, because Mars is the dispositor of this new moon, and it's in Gemini, and it's been through a lot of subconscious issues and traps and ego traps, and also misidentifying things that we think are factual or exciting or stimulating. But it's about letting go of things that honestly are holding us from our truth. And that could be the past. That could be illusions. At the same time, with Mars starting to begin its semi-square that we're going to start to see really intensely here over this next week as Pluto's ingressing into Aquarius, and Mars will make a quincunx to Pluto. This is going to be a very odd time, and there's going to be a lot of things with Pluto making its ingress into Aquarius that's about to spring up a lot of new things. So it's kind of a weird new moon, because within this new moon and the next new moon in Aries, which is the solar eclipse, we're having Pluto switch into a completely new sign after 15 years, and we haven't seen Pluto ingress into Aquarius for its first time since April 4th of 1777. So do you really have confidence of where you know where you're going at this time? No, you don't, because Pluto's going to change sides in the middle of both these new moons, okay? And one is a solar eclipse that's coming up in a month. The good news about this, though, and maybe it depends on who you are and how you look at it, but this new moon is in exact opposition to Ceres, which is retrograde at 0 Libra. This is the understanding of fertility. This is the understanding of harvesting. And it's in the sign of Libra that deals with, it's Venus's home, it's relationships. Venus is in Taurus with the North Node. So this is really about harvesting the best life for you. But, you know, if you're in relationships or partnerships with people that cause you problems, and that can be any kind of partnership, you know, this is also about if it really does build you up, or does it make you feel like you are stuck in a place where you feel not so much trapped, but with South Node and Scorpio, where it feels like you can't actually be yourself. You can't actually be your true identity. You feel like you almost are karmically stuck in some situation where you have to do something that you don't want to do, which really actually could be, in the weird way, pulling up a lot of very odd energy about your ability to understand your psychological, emotional issues with what attachment style you have in your life to your ego, what's actually going to work best for you that actually keeps you on the mission of this divine work, and what actually is where you get lost in the matrix or where you could be very naive. This would not be a good time, especially dealing with anybody who doesn't want to fertilize life and create and harvest the most beautiful, most peaceful, most amazing things in life. This is a birth energy of a new moon that is in Aries. And you have to remember that this is going to be, with Uranus in exact semisquare, a time where you're going to have to look at the people in your life and see if they're actually quality, and that it's like, are you building something together? How well is that building of something together going? How well are you connecting, and how well do those people deal with other people, and do they actually contribute? This is going to be very difficult, because let's not just try and avoid the elephant in the room per se. It is the very end of Pluto and Capricorn before we see the beginning of a new transit. And even though, yes, this is a Pluto that's coming into ingress into Aquarius, retrograde back into Capricorn this year, and then ingress back into Aquarius, retrograde back into Capricorn, and then back into Aquarius. This will be the first time we've seen it this many times since all the way back from when you go really far back. You have to remember that Capricorn only did it 1, 2, 3. Back from Sag to 1, 2, 3. Back from Libra to Scorpio, 1, 2, 3. Back from Virgo to Libra, that's where it starts going a little bit longer. So this is the first time in a long fucking time that we're going to take this long for Pluto to rub back and forth before it finally makes its full stay. But it is the beginning of the new transit. But the elephant in the room is Uranus. And also, if you think of Pluto at this moment, Saturn is the dispositor. It's Saturn's house, and Saturn's in Pisces. So you have to actually think about, I know this new moon and this idea of all these new starts and so forth. This is an engine trying to start, and it doesn't start. And in another month, we're going to crank it, and it'll start. But how well is it going to run is going to be dependent upon if you are avoiding the truth about where you're going in your long term, your mission, and especially dealing with people, because Uranus, Venus are with the North Node. Uranus is in semi-square to this new moon. You have to realize, like, when you're around environments with Mars being the dispositor, it's in Gemini, that deals with environments and the energy of what's actually literally around you that's factually true, that's actually real, because we're dealing with a lot of, shall I say, trickster energy, a lot of energy that's trying to more act like it's got its shit together when really it doesn't. You're seeing that in the world. You're seeing that with the banks. You're seeing that with the media. You're seeing that with all these other aspects, especially now that Saturn and Neptune, let's not forget that transit by itself is one of the most extreme transits, especially in Pisces, with Neptune being the ruler. And we're going to be going through this all this year, all next year. As we come into 2025, yeah. But Saturn doesn't come right away. And remember that Saturn and Neptune meet in Aries at the 0 point, exactly where we're seeing this new moon in 2026. So this isn't very rare to me, the fact that we're having a new moon at 0 Aries. Especially, this is one where it's like, okay, we're about to start something new, but the engine's going to try and fire up, but something's going to pop up between this new moon and the next. Because Pluto, whenever it ingresses into Aquarius, which there's been so many transits that have been crossing this space, right? We saw, of course, Jupiter and Saturn in 2020 on December 21st. We saw when Saturn came to 0 Aquarius, the beginning of March of 2020, they locked down the world. The night Trump won his election in 2016, that was Mars, 29 Capricorn, that went into Aquarius right when they said he won. There is so much here that's about to pop out. So I think that this is a good new moon about traditional style. Yep. Okay. I'm focusing on the things that I want in my life. There's a lot of fresh start energies, a lot of good energy, but we've got a lot in the caboose, in the subconscious. What's holding you back is what you need to identify first. What is holding you back from being on the mission and actually doing the work to get to your purpose? What's holding you back? That's subconscious. What are you afraid of? To being honest with yourself with, that you could be stepping up and doing more and better. That's what I would be focusing this new moon on, because it's not so much of what you want, it's more of how do you get it. By doing this really deep spiritual cleansing of your own doing, right? It's not about any outside entity. This is the problem. This person's the problem. The situation's the problem. No, your subconscious issues is the problem. And the deeper stuff that you're going to have to reveal from all this. Because with Pluto going to ingress into Aquarius, that shifts the whole game, and it's happening between a new moon and a solar eclipse, both going to be in Aries. And Mars is changing its energy from Gemini into Cancer in between all that. And we have to remember that Mars and Saturn are getting ready to trine. So this new moon has a slight trine with Mars and Saturn, but we have to remember this is going to be happening in water, where Mars was trining during the retrograde from Gemini to Aquarius. But the final part of this Mars trine Saturn is happening with Mars at its fall and Saturn in Pisces. So it's kind of like a dud. So we have to remember, too, that when Pluto leaves Capricorn in just the next couple days, I know we all didn't like all the very powerful Saturn-Pluto energy of the last 6.5 years, but Saturn's no longer going to be part of the equation that much. And so the structure and actually the energy to be able to reach where we want to reach is going to become harder. And it's almost going to feel like with Jupiter and Chiron that met, no matter how much the big belief system is, especially with Jupiter exactly in semisquare to Saturn. There's a lot of semisquares going on. And Jupiter semisquare Saturn is difficult. Your ego wants this, but it won't. Spirit and your subconscious are the block. So it's almost weird because it's like Pluto is trying to get to the bottom of, and as it's finishing in Capricorn here, like, what's holding you from your greatness? Did you make crazy turns that weren't in alignment with something beautiful and actually creating? Or it reminds me of succubus energy, that South Node Scorpio with Venus in opposition to it at the same time too, right? Or incubus energy, right? It could be dealing with somebody who's like stealing your soul. That's a fake energy, like something that's not truly beautiful. Something that is kind of like it's like the evil queen in Snow White as she's offering her, false alchemical process of using the divine in an evil way to offer you the apple to eat to Snow White. Are you eating that? This is definitely a time to put on your mastery as a soul right now. We don't know how the unpredictability with Pluto coming into Aquarius in the next 2 days from this new moon, while the moon will still be finishing up here at Aries, right? That's going to be the crazy part. But we have to remember that with the dispositor shifting to Uranus and it's in Taurus and it's with Venus in the North Node, talk about crazy people situations, and with Pluto being in Aquarius, that's what makes this new moon to me the weirdest new moon, in the sense that it's not what you think it is. It's not traditional like what everybody's saying in the astrology. It's just go time. It's a new start. You've got a lot of shit that have to be cleared up for that new start to begin. And making sure that you have got no blinders on of what could take you down, especially in crazy relationship situations, and picking the light. This is the end of North Node Taurus. We're coming out of it in the next couple months. And this will be the beginning of the end of even the understanding of the North Node and all the personal signs, right? We'll only have one sign left, Aries. And we'll be switching dispositors. So I feel like this is a very important time for people to be very honest with themselves and be like, am I really doing this place where I'm shedding off the spiritual places that weren't spiritual, the spiritual people, Or am I really connected to what's holding me back? And it's going to be through connections, relationships, and people. And it's going to be whether or not you're somebody who's like, I just want to just throw it all away. Or I just want to quit, so I'm just going to find the easy way out. Or you're in an escapism place through friends, a relationship, a person, or a relationship you have with something that you just want to serve your ego with that is holding you back from getting where you need to go. We all know money is already crazy. We already know liquidity in markets and so forth is a major play because, of course, the South Node in Scorpio and Pluto's here at the end. There's always the savior complex of Pluto and then the evil complex that shows up with Pluto when it switches signs. And I know that everybody thinks right now that crypto's going to save it, right? Just the same way when Pluto came into Capricorn, it was Obama, right? Oh, Bitcoin's the savior. Well, Bitcoin was also made with Pluto and Capricorn, as a Capricorn. Maybe. I'm not going to say that it's not. But I'm not putting my winning hands right now on anything that looks like it's too good to be true. It's got to have some depth and some realness and some awareness. And also, this is about with Uranus and Venus, with Taurus, with this new moon, the North Node's here. This is about that ability to have that quality where you can really be yourself and another values the quality of who you are and you can really truly be yourself, and that it's an equal share of wanting to be in each other's connection and allowing people to be who they are. This might be a trigger horoscope, but you know who you would be out there if you know you're in some sort of relationship where somebody's telling you how to live and be, okay? We're already seeing that from governments. We're already seeing that in France. We already saw that for the last 3 years. Now it's down to your personal level. Are you really sure that you know what you're doing? Especially 16 Aries here is a very difficult spot with Saturn at 1 degree of Pisces. So Jupiter, don't just believe it's all going to be okay without doing the big checks. And because if you go to Saturn and Pisces, well, it's like, well, Neptune's there, right? Don't get caught up in the weirdness or the loss of your true spiritual essence without realizing, like, am I just really, it's almost like being stoned. Like thinking that you've got everything figured out, but forgetting you left the stove on, or forgetting, you forgot to pay that bill or that bill. But imagine all that piling up with this kind of overconfident aspect with Mars that's spun out. We've already seen Mars square Mercury, the sun, and now here's Mars finishing at the end of Gemini here, and it's tired. And if we think of Mercury that's in Aries, it's confident, but it also at the same time is just enough confidence to get out of drowning. And it's also getting ready to go into more energy that is more at its worst position, its fall position, Cancer. The good news is at this moment for this new moon, it's not, but there's too many things switching here for me to give you an honest opinion as an astrologer and give you a horoscope that says that this is all defined. It's not. It's also the 0 point, which doesn't mean it's fully defined. It's 19 degrees where the sun is exalted. So we got 19 days to see where this is going to go. Also with all the planets that are still direct, and Mars that will pick up some speed, even though it'll come to its fall position. But think of the solar eclipse, right? This is going to be looking at your most personal situations in your own personal life, the wars that are also brewing, and how your personal life will have to deal with that. And the wars that you could also be in that are in your personal life with situations that don't allow you to be really, truly who you are and free, and especially that value you truly. Or do you feel like that you're always having to, be in alliances where it's like, I don't know, I just keep getting kind of that evil queen or a succubus or an incubus energy, especially the trickster energy with Mars being the dispositor of the South Node. And so, same with Pluto here at Capricorn, almost trying to steal or take your energy and to take it to where they could go where they want to go, right? Pluto always deals with the outsider, the person that's outside, the interest that's outside of you. And You got to be careful right now that somebody could be hijacking your life, hijacking your world, hijacking it with you got to see, is somebody trying to use you right now? Is somebody trying to take advantage of your life? This isn't about being a victim. This is about being aware that you're not just in fairy dust land without realizing that it's got to have some sort of clear understanding that value is there equally on both shares. And more importantly, that is expressed in the same way of creating and being open to the beauty of connection of fertility, literal fertility, and at the same time, what to harvest. If only one side's harvesting and the other side's just chilling and doing nothing and there's no harvesting or fertility going on, there's a problem. Or you could be dealing in a relationship, and this doesn't count if you're too old, but it can. We're in a weird world where people are with people that, can't have kids or fertility or anything like that. But you have to actually get into the weird thing of this new moon is also part of the new year chart, because the sun ingress into Aries actually was a dark moon in Pisces, and the sun has exactly been in opposition to Ceres in Libra. So, if we think of the relationship thing and how much that's going to be the most important thing coming up here because of Pluto and Aquarius, is the harvesting equal? Is the masculine and feminine balanced correctly? Is this really, truly where you really want to go? Some people will sacrifice because they're too afraid of, especially in this world, losing money or losing something because, I don't want to have to go through my fear to be my honest, true self. When actually a lot of our fears when we're in good places are fears that we've tackled, and it actually shows us something better every day. Trust me, I never believed I was going to be a dad. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like, I didn't believe that shit. That was a deep fear that I had no problem to approach last year, and it fucking is paying off. I'm lucky that I have a partner that wants to create a life together, to create not only a child, but allows me to be myself, allows me to be here at 3 a.m. while she's pregnant and do this horoscope, and understands, at the same time when she does her stuff and she's got her makeup line that she's just doing a partnership with and all that, it's like, go get it, babe. There's a lot here about that kind of energy. The people you work with, the people that you connect with. It can't be an unequal thing anymore. It's not going to work. You can't be in a place anymore where you're literally dealing with relationships where I do everything and you don't do shit, or inadequate masculine and feminine energy, especially the poor feminine energy that's out there right now, that is taking on the masculine role. And then there's a bunch of masculine out there that aren't doing shit and taking on the feminine role. And I'm not going to tell anybody how they should live. But there is an imbalance when Sarah shows up in an opposition to the sun in its masculinity and its exaltation with a new moon here. But let's remember that the moon is in semi-square to Uranus, and this brings up anxiety. And that personal life anxiety, because of how odd and undefined this reality is. The more undefined it is something that you have to look at your relationship with, because there should be some at least basic defining principles here of at least a trail that says my light work and my spiritual path is going together with this people, this person, my life, and at least I understand that. But if you are in a place where it's like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to be myself, you're walking on eggshells. You're walking through the world on eggshells. There's a problem in your domestic life. There's a problem in your domestic partnerships. There's a problem in those areas that you need to pay attention to way more. And it might not even be what you realize. Some of it might be with the child, or some of it might be with a friend, or some of it might be with somebody because war is brewing. And you might already be feeling the energy of that person having to go. We're all about to be shocked from this new moon to the next, the biggest shock of our lives. So we all need to be on the highest, use this energy right now with all the planets directed, with the new moon in Aries at the 0 point, to not look at it in the way that a lot of these just typical basic astrologers that don't fucking do the work and don't actually understand the terms of the planet don't realize that that's a solar 12th house Neptune and a solar Saturn in the 12th. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's be where we are spiritually understanding what's really going on here. And we got to make sure that we understand it's not about being afraid, but we got to be with people who want to create and be part of a collective. People who run away, people who hide right now, people who hide in the shadows, people who do things in the shadows are not your friend. They're not the people to be around. Especially people who say one thing and act another. This is the most important time for you in your life to realize, and it might be hard. You might be dealing with a friend who is in a relationship like that or is caught up in another friendship like that. You just got to pray and hope that they figure that shit out. Right now, it's important to remember that there's going to be some people that you're just going to be like, all right, I guess they're going to go on that journey. And some who might wake up. We're all here to be surprised. But you want to see the deeper part of all this. You're going to have to really be honest with yourself and don't let the elephant in the room just sit there. This world and this matrix at this moment right now is glitching. This chart is glitching. It doesn't know where to go. The only place of solidarity at all is that North Node in Taurus with Venus in Taurus. And that means it's the best of the best. Ironically enough, this is also a new moon where the North Node is conjunct Juno. And Venus is conjunct Juno. Is it really the best of the best? It better not be based off monetary exchange like sugar daddy or sugar mama shit in Scorpio. It's got to be Taurus. What are you creating? And is it actually, I love Taurus. You know why? And I love Scorpio. These nodes are harsh. You know why? Taurus and Scorpio, no. You either have the money or you either have the attracting skill or not. Like it either is really working or it's really not. That's why I like being on YouTube and stuff like that, because I like always to where when I put up a horoscope, I'm always the number one video. Why? Because I've been doing it so long. But if you're still trying to put things out and you're not seeing growth in your life, what are you attached to? Who's around you? What the fuck's going on? I always say that the number one thing, especially if you think of Juno and Venus here, and Jupiter's trying to catch up as fast as he can to his wife, but not going to happen. So don't be chasing somebody because you're just hoping for them to finally give you back something or acting like you are some bitch-whipped person. Bitch-whipped people are going to fall hard. And they are going to be the people knocking on people's doors. Pluto and Aquarius, I will just help you all out for 1 sec. I never put this out yet publicly. And I had the vulgar. I guess we can. Yeah, we'll do this. I'm preparing you right now. We will deal with weirdness, foreign entities. We're already seeing a lot of that. Science transformation, we're seeing that. System resets, the odd that comes out from the shadows. But the main thing is people that don't just go away. Pluto in Aquarius. Are you sure you're prepared? This is a new mood about being prepared, not so much about what I'm doing in my manifestations. This is about making sure that you are prepared. I'm going to open up my Pluto Aquarius one here for a sec. The end of an era, or is it more than that? But of course, what? Oh, yeah. Right? If you watched my purgatory back in, when was that? April 2021. I said that Oumuamua was the mothership to the quantum computer, the super quantum computer system that's 6 feet apart on all sides, that looks like the levels of purgatory, right? So, right? I have the receipts, and they just came out and said that Oumuamua is a mothership that is sending out probes to planets. Well, you know, I haven't had the time because one of my best friends just died. Not joking. Fucking, I'm being the daddy to a soon-to-be baby and got my fiance and doing work. Trying to find the people in my life who want to really do the mission work together. And I haven't had time to contact the Harvard scientists and the people that put the paperwork together to the Pentagon to let them know that I already know what the mothership's about. I already said it. I already called it a mothership. You need to realize when it comes to people, are you fucking 100% sure that you are not dealing with somebody who is actually part of that weird ass fucking ship? And don't for 1 second think that there might not be other ships or whatever that is actually here to steal your light, steal your energy away from you, and hold you back from your great mission, and also, in a weird way, use hypnotism and hypnotize you into thinking that you don't need to do that much, and you can just go live a simple life, and you don't have to do the mission. That's what this is really about. Okay? Without even realizing it. You want to know what the secret surprise is? And I know everybody's going to think the war, the money, or all that. No. It's the persons that you have not spiritually ID'd and done your own vetting on that are really that. And you don't have your glasses on. And they are taking and they are stealing your soul. Because we are dealing with a lot of weird energies. And when Pluto came into Capricorn, what came out? The iPhone. And the change of no more battery that you could take out. The idea as well, too, to glamorize you in a hypnotic spell. And this is what Saturn and Neptune are starting to bring that you might not be paying attention to. It looks like we're connecting on it. But it's a camera. It knows your biorhythms. It can do a lot more. And even when you turn it off, it's still on. And it's tracking every part of what you do and what you say and how it's going on. And it's going to a computer, a quantum supercomputer that's transmitting that data into data centers, which is transmitting it frequency to reptilian dark ships. And are you sure that you're not looking at people like it's just a normal iPhone and it's just great? And you haven't vetted it, especially if you know the way that you could tell the foreigner energy that's not from here is they don't want to create. They don't want to have that natural understanding of that, with especially Ceres trying to help us that's super far up north in declination in the exact equinotic spot that's in exact opposition to this new moon. They won't want to create fertility or harvest things, and they suck at it. You'll see that they can't do it. They avoided it their whole life, or they avoid creating things, or they avoid actually fully doing anything, and they don't know how to fucking make something happen. They don't have the eagerness to. They always find some excuse. They always find some way to not get close and keep you pushed away. I know this is going to trigger the fuck out of a lot of people, but it has to be said because nobody else is saying it. Everybody's saying the same shit. This is a quote of mine. Impulsive, obsessive, and won't let go. I did this in October in Texas with Robert Phoenix. Shout out to Robert Phoenix. I hope you all follow him. He's an amazing astrologer who I vetted as a person and a human in my life. I'll also be on Jimmy Church's Fade to Black on Wednesday night, right before Pluto comes into Aquarius. We're doing a fucking awesome show. Impulsive, obsessive, and won't let go. But in Aquarius, that is not what Pluto wants to do. Or is it more that that's not what Aquarius likes Pluto to be? Pluto is at fall when it comes into Aquarius. And so I know I'm talking about Pluto and Aquarius, and I know you're thinking about a new moon, but you got to remember this new moon is temporary, and it's not the new moon of Aries. It is the solar eclipse that will overtake this one because it will be a North Node solar eclipse. Where are you in impulsive, obsessive, and where you can't let go, and you always feel like you're chasing to try and understand the person you don't understand, or they're so weird, or they don't want to create, or they don't want to be in the natural, the square point now? Because remember, we enter the Pluto-Uranus square the second that Pluto comes into Aquarius here in the next 2 days with this new moon. So you're going to be dealing with where if you're in this impulsive, obsessive, or drug behavior, or, with Saturn and Neptune, or, where you're so lost and you're losing your spiritual friends, right? And you have no spiritual tribe, look at the relationship situation. It's gonna be that you're with a fucking foreign entity that, has been taken over. Look at the way that they act. Look at if they can actually be human. Do they actually really want to be emotionally in deep with you and be strong and powerful? Or do they always flop? Ask yourself that deep truth. Remember that common sense is your way through. It literally was Thomas Paine's common sense that Pluto at these degrees of Capricorn moving into Aquarius is what helped us win the Revolutionary War. Right? It was his pamphlets that came out as common sense. It should be common sense. If you're in some sort of relationship, or you're in some situation to where the common sense doesn't even really make sense anymore, because you would be stuck in a position to where it's so odd or weird that you actually couldn't actually be your full self, because you would be stuck in the monarch of somebody having some sort of hierarchy position over you, or require you to be a certain way, right? We should be craving heaven, but we should be getting to heaven with the relationships and the people we're dealing with. If we're not getting heaven, and you keep trying to do eventually, run. Now, and get back to your divine self, and do not, there is a sacrifice with this new moon. That sacrifice is the Saturn in Pisces, the Neptune in Pisces, but more importantly, it is the Saturn that's still being part of the dispositor for Pluto during this new moon in Aries, with Mars that's squaring it in Gemini, the environment, and whether or not that environment you're in is true or if it's false. And more importantly, the understanding that Saturn, of course, yes, it's Pisces, but it is in semi-square to Jupiter. And at the same time, this is this Uranus that's ready to be the ultimate dispositor for Pluto and begin a Pluto-Uranus square, right? And so that's also going to make a North Node energy, with Venus being the dispositor of Taurus and Venus being the dispositor of fucking the North Node right now, move into a dispositing chaotic situation. Because if you take Pluto as the South Node's dispositor and you go look at Uranus, it's going to be with the North Node's dispositing ruler, and that's going to be conflicting. Or fully the real deal, and already should have had manifesting elements that are so beautiful and so extreme that it'll go to the next level or it'll take you down, right? And that is how it affects your energy of the people around you, your community, your spiritual nature, and if you're really going in the right direction, or you're lost in your ego and your hopes and your dreams of trying to really use your wishes to just hopefully have something turn out to be what you're hoping it could be or eventually will feel like, and you're stretching yourself into nothing, when really you are being coerced out of your common sense to make it seem like it's common sense when it's really not. Remember, right before we saw Pluto come into Aquarius in 1776, just 4 months prior, this is when Thomas Paine then created the crisis, the American crisis. And this is what George Washington actually ordered all the Continental Army troops to actually read to boost the morale. And these are the times that test men's souls, or try men's souls. And this was Washington, not depicted as you see him triumphing all over the place, but how he was on his hands and knees too at Pluto and Capricorn before it went into Aquarius, being like, I don't know if this shit's going to work. And the only people that he knew were going to work were the people that were fucking on the team and ready to do the work. Everybody who was stuck in relationships that were holding him, or don't go do that. Don't go be part of that community thing. You're being sacrificed, not sacrificing. You do not want to end up in a place where you've lost. I've been warning for this for years. When I said purgatory, shattered reality, the shattered reality's already hit, but we haven't seen the glass fully break. It's already been breaking. But man, these shards, when Pluto comes into Aquarius after this new moon, will definitely identify things. This is a new moon that's about to identify things that aren't identified fully yet. And only the things that have been identified that are great are going to move on. The things that are identified that you're questioning whether they're great or not is what you need to get to the bottom to on this new moon. Right? Where are you being neglected? Are you being too proud? Are you being envious of others? Are you dealing with a sloth? Or the gluttonous, or even if it's just based off lust without actual love, that could be too much, right? You think you get to the paradise, but you only get to the earthly paradise and you're nowhere near the heaven. The only way you get to heaven, remember, is through the understanding of the ascension understandings of the planetary understandings and the rulers of them, and you have to break the vows. Remember, I went into this. You should rewatch my Purgatory if you're really ready for Pluto and Aquarius. It's on YouTube for free. It's on High Vibe. But the breakers of the vows that we make that are not true, that are part of an earthly plane in existence, and you need to rise up to these higher orbs and reach to these higher dimensional portals here to really get to where you can get to the true essence, to get to the divine energy. So I just got to say, like, there's so much here that I hope that people understand that this is not a time where you don't need to wake up anymore. It's out of our hands. There is no more choice on the red pill or the blue pill. It's whether or not you've attracted an agent. And if it's here to take you out from your light work. And where those energies are, and it's not about going to war with them, but it's about letting them go energetically so you are not sucked into, man, I tried to keep going to this, but that you are not sucked into this system that is coming, which is the artificial system. And it's not the artificial intelligence, it's the artificial intergalactic objects. AI is not for artificial intelligence. It's the artificial intergalactic. And what has been sent here artificially. That is actually just a construct of what the iPhone has done to you and the data that it has on you and how it has sent many different people over this last, especially over this last 3 years with Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius at 0, Mars, Saturn, and Mars, Venus. And then Mars, Venus are coming again to meet up next year at 4 degrees of Aquarius. There are people who are living a certain way and how to be, and it's all computer-based and it's all artificial. And then there are people who really are connecting and wanting to do work that's out of this world literally, and they actually show up and they actually let you and they actually want to create and they actually at the same time want to do the harvest work, and they also they're not afraid of fertility. You can see that when you deal with people who are afraid of fertility. They're afraid of creating. They're afraid, they balk. In baseball, that's a term of fake pitching at the mound. So, I hope that this message got to you. Because I know already you're not going to get a message like this anywhere else. Everybody else is balking you astrologically. The Astro Twins just blocked me because I called them out. I literally told them in their Instagram, they put up one of them put up a reel about Pluto Aquarius, and I went and they were talking about the patriarchy coming down and how great it was. And I said, well, you all are the part of the patriarchy because you all put in your horoscopes. The Astro Twins put in their horoscopes to get an experimental, you know what, is good for you this week on all the sun signs for months in 2021. And I called them out. And another person was just talking literally like, yeah, hopefully this stuff comes out about that shit. And I went, what do you mean? You're talking to the actual girls who push that as astrologers. They are foreign entities. And they blocked me right away and got rid of my comment. So, because that shit, that's how you know in one way, but another way is that you're dealing with people who are fake. It ain't real. And they try to push off this, I'm perfect and I'm, I don't, what do you mean? Or they talk shit behind your back and they won't actually tell you. And, that's the worst place you could be. So, it's fucking sad that we're living in a world right now where there's a lot of fakes. And it's sad when you have friends that you have, like I just had a friend who passed away, and I don't even want to say because I'm going to keep his privacy on how he passed away, but it blows my mind. I can't even believe that he would ever go through that. But believe me, there are people when you think they wouldn't do what they would do, they'll do it. And at the same time, then you have people out there who you would think would be on the mission and just totally get sucked away and will take the apple and literally, like I just showed with Steve Jobs, take the apple and get into the hypnotism of what they think is they're manifesting or whatever it might be. Especially, I don't know if you remember, I'll just show it real quick, but it's, don't forget that this Pluto is conjuncting Eros. And it's with the South Node. It's the South Node dispositor, and it's almost like if you're in relationships that are based off, well, the sex is good, but we have some issues, or they provide something for me. They provide something for you, really? They provide what? Money or something, and without having some sort of deep connection to a natural thing in life. Where you're just trying to scapegoat doing the work? That's scary. I would not want to be there. All right, let's see what the card is for this new moon. I'm going to be nice. It just popped up. Ads will run shortly for some viewers. I'm going to skip the ads because I care about people, even that are not on High Vibe on my YouTube when I do show up. All right. What do we got? Six of Wands. I mean, we have to look at this new moon as that this is the card of victorious understanding of the quest, but it's only if you're on the quest. If you have not stayed on the quest and you feel the quest is starting to, oh no, of your great spiritual light worker mission, you need to get back on it now in order to succeed and to have that energy. You know, this is definitely not going to be a time where you want to get lost in, I'm kind of on a sidewinder of the quest. No, you have to be to where you are on your highest spiritual, collective work. Like, this is not where you're, I'm just giving up for the basic personal Cancer life. This is Pluto at the end of Capricorn, coming into Aquarius and going to be waking up to foreign entities and weird incubuses and succubuses that are like a kind we've never even experienced before. Or where, the people who've done the work, you're going to see it's like that shit was real. There was actual beauty there that was actually meant to be created in an equal understanding and actually is creating something beautiful. Nine of Wands reversed. Well, it's time to understand shields are down so you can see, but at the same time, be careful. While the shields are down, this is going to be an important time for you to use those shields to get back on the trail. And also, if you're on the trail, then you got to make sure that you're not just letting your shields down in a way, especially subconsciously, or especially where you're trying to, I would say, it's more like, you're trying to hold on to something that's bad that you think is, you shouldn't be forcing yourself to hopefully have a victory. The trail of the light, the trail of the divine, the trail of actually getting to it is already won. But ask yourself the big question. Have you taken your shields down because you wanted a little vacay from the work, and did it take you away from the work? And you're going to have to look at it through people. That's what this is saying. And that's also what the Semisquare Uranus, Venus with the North Node with Juno in opposition to the South Node with Pluto and Eros. Was it sexual, or was it about creating something? Was it about exchange, or was it about creating something? Was it about fertility and harvesting something beautiful, or was it about your ego and the harvesting of your own wants and desires and quick and easy and fast Mars in Gemini, the dispositor that's been in square to Neptune for the last, 5 months. Did you keep changing your life without a solid place and thinking that you're going to find a solid place in some new place? That's the other thing. People are not paying attention. You're not going to find something solid in a new way of doing a situation that literally has no footing already. Taurus Uranus is, did you already keep building on top of it, building on top? Or are you just trying to hope that the summer breeze will show up with now us being in spring into summer and will just like bring you to where you need to go without actually having where you did do everything for a spiritual sacrifice to maintain things in your life so you don't get blown away or taken away by agents in the Matrix. This is my agent warning. You've got 48 hours. And if you watch this video after, make sure you're not with a Matrix agent. We are entering into the Matrix, and we're entering into the show and leaving the lobby. The last 3 years has been the lobby. So don't fuck this one up. And make sure that you're on High Vibe. Make sure you're part of my Pluto Masterclass. You want to go deeper into Pluto. I blow people's minds. You think I could blow your mind with this shit? Shit. Today, some of the class shit was fucking, people were just like, what the fuck? You want to talk about fertility? The universe is fertility in its own self, and you have to understand that with Pluto. The only way to get to where you think you want to go next, well, you don't even know unless you take the Pluto Masterclass. It's only $125. I appreciate you all. Thanks for supporting High Vibe. And I'll see you all, hopefully on High Vibe in our community and on the videos. Adios.